I finally got my system back up and working, so we will be doing live videos more often, or I will be. But today I want to go over Peter being the rock and a claim that the Roman Catholic Church teaches that Peter is the first pope and Peter is the rock on which the church is built on. And quite frankly, this type of argument shouldn't fly today because we have plethora amount of Bible software like the one that's on the screen. And if you use that link below, you'll end up getting 5 free books, and you'll get a free book every month. But that type of argument cannot possibly fly with anyone that has a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of skill on how to use proper Bible tools where they can go and look and see and dissect the original language to show that Peter is not the rock on which the church is built. It is the people, the believers in Jesus. It is by faith that you are saved, not by being a member of a denomination. But nevertheless, just dive in and dissect this real quick, and I'll be going back and forth with the screen so I can see what I'm doing. All right, so we're going to start off. Obviously, we're going to start off where Jesus changed Peter's name in John 1:24, and it reads, "Andrew brought Simon to Jesus, and Jesus looked at him and said, 'You are Simon, the son of John. You will be called Cephas,' which is translated Peter." So we don't need to guess what Cephas, which is an Aramaic word, we don't need to guess what it's going to be translated into English, into Greek, into any other language. The Bible does it for us. So all we have to do is just believe the Bible. And we can see right here, it is translated to Petros. So Jesus changed Peter's name to Cephas, Aramaic, which in return translates into Greek as Petros. This is huge because this whole argument falls apart if you understand this very verse right here. And so if we go to Matthew, let's go to Matthew 16:18. If we go to Matthew 16:18, well, let's back up a little bit. Let's back up to verse Let's back up to Peter's confession, starting at Matthew 16, verse 13. When Jesus came to the area of Caesarea Philippi, he asked the disciples, "Who do people say the Son of Man is?" So the preface of this is, who do people say that I am? Jesus is asking, who do people say that I am? And verse 14, it says, they answered, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and others say Jeremiah, or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." So the whole point of Peter saying you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, is because Peter is recognizing Jesus as the fulfillment of Israel. All of Israel's promises and covenants in the Old Testament, they were not able to keep. So Jesus came to fulfill that covenant on their behalf. And this is why when God made the covenant with Abraham, he put Abraham to sleep. And so this is showing that, hey, no matter if the people of Israel break the covenant or God breaks the covenant, God will bear that iniquity, that judgment, if you will. And this is why Jesus came, and this is why Jesus died, for the forgiveness of sins, because Israel broke their covenant with the Creator God. So this is important to understand because it says in verse 17, it says, "And Jesus answered, 'You are blessed.'" Why was he blessed? Because he understood who Jesus was. And he identified Jesus as the Christ, the Son of the living God. And he says, "Simon, son of Jonah, because flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father in heaven." You see, the Father revealed this to Peter. Peter didn't do this on his own. We are incapable of understanding heavenly things without wisdom, and that wisdom comes from only God himself. So the whole point, all the way up to this point, up to 18, is all about who is Jesus. It's about Jesus. Who do you say that I am? Who do people say that I am? You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And verse 18, it says, and I tell you that you are Peter, Petros, the same name that he already gave him in John 1:42. He calls him again. You are Petros. And on this Petra rock, I will build my church. You see, it doesn't say, I'm going to build my church on you, Peter. And if you look over here on the right side of the screen, this is a Catholic commentary encyclopedia. And they say that right here, it says, Christ to Peter, the rock upon which he builds his church. You see, that doesn't say that in the verse. It says, I will build my church upon this. This right here is a pronoun, but it is not identifying Peter. It doesn't say, upon you, Peter, I'll build my church. No, it says, upon this, Petra. Petra is identified as Jesus in, let's go back, let's go to, I think it's First Corinthians. Yep. So First Corinthians 10:4. It says in First Corinthians 10:4, it says, and all drank the same spiritual drink from where all drank from the spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. And you can see underneath it, this is Petra. So Petra is absolutely being identified as Christ. He doesn't say upon Petrus. No, it says upon Petra. So when we go back to Matthew 16:18, Jesus is never called Petros, and Peter is never called Petra. So it literally doesn't take a lot of Bible study to see that this particular doctrine is false by the Roman Catholic Church. Jesus is the one that built his church. And if you think about all the patriarchs of the Old Testament, all the kings and all the people prior to the apostles, it doesn't take a lot of humility to say, hey, maybe David, a man after God's own heart, maybe if that was true that God was going to build his church on a man, it probably would have been someone like David or another great king of Israel. But it's not. It is built on the revelation of Jesus Christ as the Christ, the Son of the living God. And this is why your confession is so important. If you cannot say that Christ came in the flesh, you have the Antichrist spirit. So if you have the Antichrist spirit, then you can't be part of the church. And if you're part of the church, you'll be able to say Christ is the Son of the living God. And Christ literally means God. God took upon all of Israel's promises, came and fulfilled those covenants. And this is why we have a new covenant, which is in Jesus's blood. But let's just keep reading in Matthew 16. In verse 19, it says, I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth, you will have bound in heaven. And whatever you release on earth, you'll release in heaven. So the Catholics will say, hey, well, look, Peter has all authority to binding and loosening on earth. So if he binds it in heaven, he can bind it on earth, looses it in heaven, looses it in earth. The problem with that is that is not strictly isolated to Peter. Because when we go to Matthew 18:18, literally 2 chapters later, it says, I tell you the truth. This is Jesus speaking. Whatever you bind on earth, you will have bound in heaven. And whatever you loosen on earth, you will have been loosened and released in heaven. The same authority that Peter was given 2 chapters later, Jesus gives to all his disciples and apostles. So this is not an isolated event. So no matter which way you want to dissect this particular argument, it falls apart real quick because it's not built on solid scripture. And again, it is about Christ, the Son of the living God. Here is a commentary that I like to use, and let me just read it. It says, the myth, some look at this verse, speaking of Matthew 16:18, on this verse and assume that the church is built upon Peter. Peter's name in the Greek language was Petros, which means a rock or a stone. The Roman Catholic teach that Christ built his church upon Peter, the rock. They claim that he was the first pope of the church. Clearly, we know that Peter is not the rock in which Jesus referred. He was just a moral, sinful man, just like the rest of us. He did not possess the ability or the deity status to have the church built on him. You see, it had to be God that built it. It's all about Christ, the Son of the living God. Whenever you put anything on the same level as Jesus, you fall into heretical teachings really, really quick. So when you study the Bible and you come to say, "Hey, this somehow lines up with Jesus," you're wrong. It's simply as easy as that. I'm sorry to be blunt, but you're wrong because nothing is equal to God Himself. Nothing is. So if you have a teaching and you're like, "Hey, maybe Peter is the rock, but Christ is somehow working in the background." Well, this would indicate that you'd have to be a member of the Roman Catholic Church because only the church goes to heaven. And the Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church used to teach back in the day, and when people were not educated in Scripture, that you had to be a member of their denomination to be a member of God's flock. And quite frankly, this does not fly today because if you just do a little bit of independent research that is about not about Catholicism, not about Protestantism, not about any other denomination, but about Christ Himself, you would be able to see that Jesus is the head of the church. It is about Jesus, and this is why it says if you're going to be part of this, whoever's first is last. We're all equal in this race of life, though there is a rank structure, just like the Trinity. The Trinity has a rank structure, but the Father is not greater than the Son, and the Son is not greater than the Father. They're co-equal in essence, but there is a rank structure. The marriage of a husband and wife, the man is the head of his household, but they are co-equal. The Trinity it was what we're supposed to mimic in every aspect of our life, our work, our family life, our discipleship, us being an apostle or disciples of Jesus. The Trinity is what we are to mimic. Christ is the center of everything. Everything that even possibly comes to fruition is because of what Christ has done, and it is all about Him. So I hope you do like this Bible study, and if you don't mind subscribing to this channel and turn on the notifications, and I will be going live more.